Educational Communications and this station present Environmental Directions with Nancy Pearlman. On this series, we explore the effects of human influence on the Earth's ecosystems and discuss solutions to environmental problems which affect the quality of life on this planet. Environmental Directions gives you the kind of information you need to help you participate in decisions impacting your community, the nation, and the world. Now, here's your host, Nancy Pearlman.
Hello. We are going to be talking about sea turtles, especially the impacts of marine debris and plastic pollution on our ocean wildlife and on people, with my guest, Brittany McWhorter. She is the coordinator for the Gulf of Mexico Environmental Program for the Turtle Island Restoration Network. She was formerly a Texas Parks and Wildlife Park Operations trainee at Brazo Bend State Park in Texas. Welcome. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You are working to try to educate the public about the problems of marine debris and also trying to help the wildlife that is suffering from such pollution. But you're working with an organization called Turtle Island Restoration Network, which is a nonprofit conservation and advocacy organization that has been celebrating over 35 years of environmental service. But you have to explain what Turtle Island is, because there's no specific little island in our gulfs or our oceans. It really means the earth, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really started with our founder, Todd Steiner, back in 1987 when he traveled to Nicaragua to learn more about sea turtle conservation programs. And so Todd really started Turtle Island Restoration Network. What he did in Nicaragua was he found a group of dedicated biologists and community activists at one of the most important olive ridley nesting beaches. This really sparked Turtle Island, and he started an all-volunteer grassroots effort to raise funds to purchase basic field supplies and research materials. And by 1989, he launched the Sea Turtle Restoration Project. So it started off as the Sea Turtle Restoration Project and then transitioned into Turtle Island Restoration Network. And so Turtle Island comes from the belief that sea turtles carry the world on their shells. And so it's this really beautiful concept where if we take care of the sea turtles and the earth, then they'll take care of us. Yeah, we've been celebrating over 35 years, and now we have programs spanning the globe. So from the coastal waters of the Galapagos Islands all the way to the sandy beaches of Galveston, Texas. And so we've expanded projects not just for sea turtles, but also sharks, marine mammals, and seabirds from all kinds of threats, including marine pollution and plastic pollution.
You yourself are a scientist with a bachelor's and master's in marine biology from the Texas A&M University at Galveston. With that knowledge, you are very much engaged with trying to find out what is going on with the animals and the sea turtles particularly. How many species are there?
For the Gulf of Mexico, we have 5 species of sea turtles, and then globally, there's about 7 species of sea turtles worldwide. In the Gulf, we have the leatherback sea turtle, the Kemp's Ridley sea turtle, which is the most critically endangered. We also have the green sea turtle, the loggerhead sea turtle, and the hawksbill sea turtle. And then the other 2 that aren't typically found in the Gulf are going to be the olive ridley and the flatback sea turtles.
Why do you love sea turtles, and why should we love sea turtles?
That's a great question. So I love sea turtles because they're very charismatic. People care about sea turtles. They're beautiful creatures. They have a lot of ecosystem services. They're nutrient recyclers, so transferring nutrients from nutrient-rich areas to nutrient-poor ones. They have a really big responsibility with reef health. They're just these really beautiful creatures. I find that they're a great way to kind of help the public care about marine wildlife. what's impacting sea turtles is impacting other marine wildlife. If we can get a lot of people involved with helping sea turtles and caring for them, then it's also helping the ocean as a whole. So that's why I really love them.
I have seen the turtles in Galveston at the beach. A woman was rescuing the eggs to be sure that they could be hatched and released back into the ocean because beachgoers can destroy the nests. Is that still a problem?
What we do along the Gulf shoreline in a lot of major areas along the Texas Gulf is sea turtle nests that are found on our shores are actually taken and rehabilitated at the Padre Island National Seashore, which is a protected shoreline. The thing about female sea turtles is they typically nest from the beaches that they hatched from. So a lot of the sea turtles along the Texas coast will go to that Padre Island National Seashore. This year we've had over 430 nests so far this season. We've had a record-breaking nesting season, and the majority have been found on that national seashore. So in Galveston, people interacting with the nests is not as common anymore. There's also restrictions against that, and they're protected. If you do see a sea turtle along the Texas coast, you can call 1-866-TURTLE-5, and then someone will respond to the turtle, whether it's injured or if there's a nest, they'll respond to that nest.
I also saw sea turtle nesting in Mexico, in the Cancun area, in the Yucatan, and in Costa Rica on the beach. The biggest problem seems to be the tourists who are using the beach, and the sea turtles need to nest there. How do we accommodate both the animals and the humans?
Yeah, I love that question. Definitely cleaning up after yourself. So oftentimes, even here in Galveston, after major holidays like Memorial Day and 4th of July, we'll find a lot of trash on our beaches. And so cleaning up after yourself is a huge way you can participate in helping the sea turtles. Trash is just another barrier for sea turtles. They can be entangled in it or they can ingest it, and it can cause a lot of issues. So cleaning up after yourself, giving the sea turtle space. If for some reason they do come up to the shoreline, you want to keep your distance. And then if for some reason you do find a stranded sea turtle or a nesting sea turtle or turtle eggs, looking up what your local sea turtle hotline is and then calling that number to inform researchers on where that sea turtle is so that they can respond to it and provide the appropriate help that it may need.
One of the problems with hotels and resorts is that they like to be on the beach and they have lights, and this can be quite confusing when the baby turtles come out of the nest. They need to go to the ocean, not toward the lights inland. How can that problem be solved?
Right. We see that here in Galveston as well. So turning those lights off at night. And then what we also see is a lot of hotels will have beach chairs and beach flags up during the day, which can also create a barrier for sea turtles that are coming up to nest or coming onto land. So just removing those from the beach at night is really helpful for the sea turtles, turning off those lights. Baby sea turtles, whenever they do hatch, the moon kind of directs them to the water, and so that artificial light can really disorient nesting female sea turtles and hatchlings, and so it's really important to turn off those lights.
We're talking about sea turtles as though everybody knows what they look like. Maybe we should describe some of the different species. They are different from tortoises, which are land turtles, you might say, but sea turtles can live to be over 100 years old. I think that some on the Galapagos Islands are well known for being very, very old. These are reptiles that have survived many different problems in the ocean and on the land. How do you describe what a turtle looks like?
Yeah, definitely. Even here in Galveston, we do get a lot of calls of people who see a turtle and they assume that it's a sea turtle, but oftentimes it's often like a freshwater or a land turtle. So the main difference that you'll notice is land turtles are going to have more of a dome-shaped shell, and they can actually pull their arms into that shell. Whereas sea turtles, they can't pull their flippers into their shell, and so their shell is also a lot flatter than land turtles. It's more hydrodynamic, so it's meant for moving swiftly through the water, whereas those land turtles, it's going to be a little bit rounder on the top, and it's not really made for that hydrodynamic movement in the water. They're more made for tucking their arms in to protect themselves against land predators. Typically, your sea turtles, some of them get a lot larger than land turtles. For example, the leatherback sea turtle can get up to 6 feet and weigh over 1,500 pounds, whereas your smallest sea turtle is going to be the Kemp's Ridley, and they range from 2 to 3 feet. So they're the smallest, but those are going to be those main indicators, as well as land turtles and tortoises. You don't typically see those on the beach. It's pretty unlikely. And then the same goes for sea turtles. You don't typically see them outside of beach locations. So they stay in their area.
I am sure that scientists have radio collared some of them to find out where they go in the ocean. How far do they travel?
Yeah, so there have been researchers who have tagged sea turtles to show their movements. Typically, it's going to be female sea turtles because those are the ones that only come to land. Male sea turtles usually spend most of their lives in the ocean. Sea turtles are highly migratory, and they do migrate long distances between different habitats for feeding, breeding, and nesting. Yeah, they have documented their movements, and it's believed that they navigate based off of a combination of inherited abilities and learning behaviors, while also using sort of an internal compass that uses the Earth's magnetic field to determine direction. So really, really complex ability to migrate across these really vast areas in the ocean.
In the past, sailors would often keep sea turtles on their ships to eat them. They survived on the ship. Indigenous people would eat the sea turtles and also collect the eggs. Has that practice been pretty much been banned in countries around the world? Is there any kind of international agreement to protect these animals?
In the U.S., the United States, it is generally banned of consuming sea turtles and their eggs because we have the Endangered Species Act here, which protects them. It makes it illegal to take any sea turtle species found in U.S. waters. Internationally, I'm not aware of the exact bans, but I know for the U.S. it is banned because we have that Endangered Species Act, which protects all of our sea turtles. All of them are either endangered or threatened at this point. I'm very grateful for that ban. It's no longer practice to eat sea turtles or their eggs in the U.S.
You have worked in the Texas State Park system, but we also have national parks and we have marine sanctuaries. Do we need to expand the marine sanctuaries in the Gulf of Mexico?
Yeah, definitely. This month is actually Marine Protection Area Awareness Month. Currently, the administration is threatening our marine protected areas. There's been a lot of talk about revoking and opening up certain marine protected areas to fishing and commercial fishing, which we are against. It's really important that we keep those marine protected areas there, and if we can expand them, to expand them. They're there for a reason, and once you have these endangered species that go away, they're not going to come back. They're not there anymore. And so it's really important that we keep working on keeping our marine protected areas and our protected terrestrial areas as well.
There's so much more that we are going to be talking about with sea turtles and also the many other projects of your organization, the Turtle Island Restoration Network, who's also trying to save coho salmon here in California or restore the redwood forests and trees, and also how we can personally change our habits to solve some of the plastic pollution problem. We will be talking more with Brittany McWhorter when we return.
Environmental Directions with Nancy Perlman continues with further discussion of the world's critical ecological issues. For more information, you may call 310-559-9160 or go to www.ecoprojects.org. Now, here's Nancy.
I'm speaking with Brittany McWhorter. She is the coordinator for the Gulf of Mexico Environmental Program for Turtle Island Restoration Network. Why are sea turtles so important to protect?
Yeah, sea turtles are so important to protect because they do have a lot of ecosystem benefits, and they're also a indicator species. So sea turtles are doing poorly. It can indicate that other animals may also be doing poorly in the ocean environment. So by protecting sea turtles, you're often protecting marine mammals and fish and other ocean species as well from a lot of the threats that sea turtles face. So they face really all of the threats in the ocean as a lot of other species do.
In fact, most of the marine mammals are affected by the plastic pollution, also by the other debris that is found in the ocean, monofilament lines from fishing. That poses a problem. Even people who release balloons for events and holidays, and those balloons end up in the ocean, and the animals think that that's food, and it's not, and then they basically die of starvation when their stomachs are filled with all this pollution. Your organization is very involved in numerous projects to encourage cigarette butt recycling, monofilament line recycling, balloon busting, beach cleanups, nurdle patrols, and we have to define what a nurdle is.
Yeah, so a nurdle is a primary plastic. It's manufactured by the fossil fuel industry to create larger pieces of plastic. So nurdles are these really small plastic beads. The industries will make thousands of these beads, and then they'll ship them to plastic manufacturing organizations who will melt them down and make them into things like plastic bottles and plastic cutlery, plastic bags, plastic containers. A lot of those single-use common plastic items that you can think of that consumers use. So we find a lot of these nurdles in Galveston and around the world. You can conduct nurdle patrols at your local beaches or your local areas. They're bad for the environment because as plastic sits in the environment, it can absorb toxins and chemicals, and then whenever animals consume those, even if they're able to pass the plastic, that toxin can stay behind in their bodies, and so it'll bioaccumulate in their bodies. So as they grow, there can be more toxins that accumulate in their bodies, and then it can also biomagnify up the food chain. So these large consumers, these large predators in the ocean will have higher toxic levels than animals at the lower food chain. So we're seeing that toxins from these plastics are starting to accumulate in animals in the ocean, sea turtles as well.
Not only are wildlife affected by plastic pollution, but human beings are affected. Petrochemical plastic production and chemical recycling facilities release harmful air and water pollution that causes increased instances of asthma, cancers, and endocrine disruption, developmental disorders, heart disease, and probably much more. So it affects every living being, doesn't it?
Yes, it definitely does.
Perhaps you could describe what bioaccumulation and biomagnification is and why we should be concerned about that.
Bioaccumulation is the concept where as an animal grows or as a human grows, you start to grow your level of toxins in your body as well. It's often a toxin or a pollutant, but it builds up in a living organism over time. With these toxins, it accumulates faster than it can actually be excreted. And so people are absorbing these substances through various routes, including breathing, through their skin, or ingestion. The same goes from animals as well. And then you have biomagnification, where this is the concept that as you move up the food chain, you're finding more and more levels of the toxin. And so it moves up the food chain from one trophic level to the next. So for example, if we have a sort of a marine food web, you may find a low level of this toxin in zooplankton. That next trophic level would be fish. The next one could be, let's say, a marine mammal like a seal. And then the next one could be a polar bear, which is sort of at the top of the food level. And so as you move up that food chain, because there's a transfer of energy. There's also a transfer of toxins. That polar bear is going to have the most amount of that toxin because it's eating several of those seals, which have already a higher level of the toxin than, let's say, the fish or the zooplankton. And so we're also seeing this bioaccumulation and biomagnification in humans as well, because many humans eat fish. They also eat meat that may have microplastics in it that have these toxins. And so we're at the top of that food chain as well, similarly to like a polar bear or another higher predator animal.
I recently attended the restaurant show here in Southern California, and I was really distressed to see how many takeout items, containers, plasticware there was. And I kept asking, is this made out of recycled material? Is this biodegradable? And so much wasn't. And I know that you are very involved in trying to get city-scale reusable foodware. Can you describe how that is going?
Yeah, so we're partnering with Perpetual. Basically how our citywide reusable foodware system would work is we would supply restaurants around Galveston Island with reusable containers and cups. They would provide those for the people who visit their restaurants. The visitors could then take those home, eat their leftovers, and then return those reusable containers to a bin. There would be several bins around the island, and then we would have our staff or volunteers and interns go around and pick up the containers from the bin, take those to a decontamination and cleaning facility, and then we would redistribute the clean and sanitized containers back to the restaurant. So it would really create this nice sustainable foodware loop, which would reduce single-use plastic usage. Right now, what our process in that is we've already talked to a lot of local partners who would love to participate in the program. We have everything that we need. We have all the plans. Right now, we just need funding for transportation to go pick up the reusable items. We would also need funding for our bins as well. So we're close to having that in Galveston, but we're not quite there yet.
You really are talking about lifestyle changes, and people have to be willing to make changes. You're advocating, for example, to reduce single-use plastic, to have reusable straws made out of metal or bamboo, taking reusable bags to the store, using bar soap instead of bottled soap, bamboo toothbrushes. All of this is easy to do. I'm doing it. Why aren't we getting more people to do it?
That's a great question, and we really try to educate folks on how easy of a change it can be. The most common sustainable swap I think I see is the water bottles, and so it's just getting people to recognize and notice how easy it is to make those swaps into care. A lot of folks that use a lot of single-use plastics say that it's more convenient. Their lives are really busy. They have a lot going on. And so it's just easier to use those single-use plastics. But if you get into that habit of using your reusable items, then it can save you money and it can save you time. It's really just a good thing to start. If one person is doing it, it really makes a difference over time. And then if billions of people are doing it, it's going to make a huge difference.
It's so important that each individual take action, write to their legislators, work with their local community, and volunteer with nonprofit organizations like yours, and go out on those beach cleanups and go out and help the scientists make the studies. There's a lot that can be done by each individual as a volunteer, isn't there?
Yes, so we have volunteer opportunities not only in Galveston, Texas, but also in Olma, California, where our headquarters is located. If you go to our website, you can find a volunteer opportunity near you. They have Nursery Day volunteering and habitat restoration event. We also have a action center on our webpage to send members of Congress emails for those dangerous bills that would threaten marine mammals, it would threaten turtles, and it would also threaten those marine protected areas. So a lot of resources and ways to get involved on our website.
There are thousands of plants and animals that need our help to preserve and protect them. Your group is focused on a few. What are they?
We focus on sea turtles in the Gulf of Mexico, mainly our Kent's Ridley sea turtle. It's the Texas state sea turtle. It's the most critically endangered. We also focus on coho salmon with the SPAWN team, which is based out in California. SPAWN stands for the Salmon Protection and Watershed Network. So they also do habitat restoration projects with redwoods. They also do programs to help native plants, help restore dams back to streams that can be used for coho salmon. We have also worked in the Coco Islands of Costa Rica to participate in shark and sea turtle migration research. A lot of shark research going on, as well as taking action and submitting comments for Rice's whales and Atlantic right whales, monarch butterflies, and really defending the Marine Mammal Protection Act and Endangered Species Act so that it protects all of the creatures that are protected under those.
I wish you well in all your endeavors because it's certainly needed. We talked earlier about the importance of eliminating the trash and how that not only makes the places more beautiful for people, but the animals don't ingest the trash. And I was amazed to hear that in Texas, you have more trash per mile of beach than any other coastal community in the United States. Is that because you've got the Gulf shorelines, the watersheds, the currents, the rivers, the streams?
Yes, exactly. So Galveston Island watershed is a huge watershed that stretches past Houston, Dallas, and the Fort Worth area. And so a watershed is the sort of natural runoff from rainwater that directs that water to rivers and streams, and then it directs it into a much larger body of water, so the Gulf. We have two major river systems. We have the Trinity River and the San Jacinto River that run through really major cities like Houston, and so a lot of times those can be vectors for trash to wind up on our shoreline because they're coming from those highly populated areas. And so even if you live more inland, you can still have an impact for what kinds of trash wind up on the coast and in the ocean. So we have our currents as well that have an impact on how much trash we find on our shoreline. We have two major currents, one that goes clockwise and one that goes counterclockwise. One of these currents is closer to the shore, and it brings trash from the Mississippi River and deposits it onto our shoreline as well. So it's really a combination of things for why we find so much trash in Texas. Like I had previously mentioned, we also find a lot of trash after major holidays, and so oftentimes our trash cans will be overflowing on the beaches. So we like to get involved with a lot of beach cleanups, especially after the holidays, to get community members involved to remove that trash before it enters the ocean.
You're doing so much, and I wish we had time to talk about all your other projects and all the other plant and animal life that you're working on, because the plants are important for the animals, and your organization's trying to restore some of our redwood trees. There's the salmon that needs to be protected. The sharks, even though people are afraid of them, they're still an important predator to have in the ocean. We only have a few seconds remaining. How many different plants and animals are you working on to save and help and study?
Yeah, as many as we can. We're constantly filling out political comments. We do a lot of action alerts. We are involved in policy to protect all kinds of marine species, including Rice's whales, sharks, sea turtles, seabirds, all kinds of marine animals. So really important stuff.
If people want to find out more information, get involved, get those action alerts, what's your website?
Our website, seaturtles.org, seaturtles.org.
Thank you so very much for trying to protect our ecosystems and all the life here on the planet. Thank you so very much for being my guest.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I have been speaking with Brittany McWhorter. She is the coordinator for the Gulf of Mexico Environmental Program for the Turtle Island Restoration Network. I'm Nancy Perlman. Thank you very much for joining us, and do tune in again next week.
If you would like free information about these environmental issues, go to www.ecoprojects.org or call 310-559-9160. Environmental Directions with your host, Nancy Perlman, is a community affairs program of the nonprofit organization Educational Communications and this station.